Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by Mark O. Estes. Mark, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm great. I just got off a long shift at work, and I'm just ready to sit here and talk some horror,
Dude,
de-stress.
I'm so excited. Me and Mark are just having an amazing conversation. Getting to know who you are as a person has been so much fun for me. I can't wait to continue that after this episode. But man, I want to tell you guys about Mark real quick before we start talking about anything else. Mark's a writer who loves the written word. He's married to reading, writing, music, TV, movies, toy collecting, most pop culture in general, which means he does let his gay geek flag fly hard, which is such a hard sentence to say three times fast. He can be found haunting Instagram and Twitter while debating his next move via his podcast, The Midnight Social Distortion. Now, all the links for all of Mark's Instagram, Twitter, podcast, everything is right down here in the description, guys. So make sure that you're giving these a check out. He's a great guy. We've been following each other for a long time on Twitter. We've been trying to make this interview happen for such a long time.
Yes.
And due to work and different other things, it's been kind of put off a little bit. But man, we are here now, and I get to hang out with you. And we've been hanging out for about a half hour now, and it's been fucking amazing getting to know
Yes.
you, learning, even though we're so far apart, a lot of the similarities that we've had in our lives growing up. But real quick, Mark, before we get into why we're here, what can you tell people a little bit about Midnight Social Distortion and a little bit about you yourself?
Well, I'm pretty much a loner. And one night when I was sitting there watching TV and the TV went out because when you put some on pause, you fall asleep, the TV tends to like go out. So I woke up to static. And I was at the same time, I was trying to figure out I want to do this podcasting thing. I want to do this thing about where I show my love for horror, but I need a good name. So it was after midnight. I'm a loner and I'm looking at a distorted screen. So I said, Midnight Social Distortion. So that's how that came to be. And I
Brilliant,
wanted to
man.
talk about I was like, I hope somebody doesn't already have this. So I went and Googled, I saw that the band name Social Distortion. I'm like,
Social
okay, that's
Distortion.
I said that's not that, but so I was like, let me go do this. But my I don't say my brand, I don't think I have a brand yet, but I tend to like to talk about horror through the black gay lens. Because there's a lot of you have black horror, resurfacing because it's always been here, and then you have just new forms of like horror, new forms of horror forming. There's new avenues of horror that are being explored. And so
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to, just use that as my anchor and then just blossom into other things because I try to talk about stuff that we talk about on a regular basis, but also try to give a original take to it because it's kind of hard. Like when you could talk about something like when we could talk about this 24/7, but we could always find some way of making it fresh. And that's my goal with Midnight Social Distortion. And also to make aware of black queer horror characters and black horror survivors, because even though there is a trope out there that we always get sliced up first and be cast aside, there are some survivors out there. And instead of us just saying like, because I get tired of every year seeing the meme, this is one of the reasons why I jumped off Facebook. It's a million reasons why I jumped off Facebook. The meme of LL Cool J is like the first black guy to survive a horror movie. I'm like, Roger from Night of the Demons, Yvonne from A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, even to some extent Kincaid from Dream Warriors. It's just like
Do some
there's
research,
do some
man.
research. And so I'm like, there's so much stuff out here where you could just turn around and be like, okay, we can find it. So I said, well, since you're being lazy, let me just curate all these horror survivors and put them in one spot. And I add to them,
Fool from the people under the stairs.
and you would think that as many people who quote that movie and go back to it, it's like, so you just forgot all about Fool? Like, how do you do
Right.
that? And so and some people are like, oh, you're taking it too seriously. I'm like, no, because people, I may know it's a joke. I may know that you're joking.
It's still disrespectful. A
Right.
joke is a joke, sure. But when you start to hear the same joke over and over and over and over and over, there starts to become that nugget of truth in there.
Exactly. Exactly. And then when people post that and they get mad when you try to tell them like, oh, you become a weirdo. Well, when you watch too
Right.
many horror movies, I'm like, oh, so I'm a weirdo now. Okay, I'll take that. But it's just I try to educate people in
I'm a
the form
weirdo
of
with the
horror.
right answer here.
Weirdo with the right answer. Exactly. So I'm like, you can call me what you want to call me though, but I'm gonna be right. And you can sit there and Google everything, and your commenters can sit there and go back, oh yeah, he is right. And then because that's doing that opens up, is plants a seed rather for that person to go back and just go into a deep dive and be like, oh, and so because that's how I discovered other horror fans, or the black horror fans rather. And just to wrap it up right quick, I come from a small town that is like Mayberry, and I was like so into horror, but it was like this taboo thing
Yeah.
because one, it's the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. And then two, by me being a black man or a black kid, I was not supposed to be into that type of stuff because black people don't watch horror, they don't write horror, they don't do anything about horror. And this was
What
coming
a
from
sad
both,
stereotype, man.
yeah, and this was coming from both, like not just one um race. It was coming from everybody, like white, black, Hispanic, and we didn't have any we had like probably like one indigenous person and probably like one Asian person in our whole town history. And that's crazy given that, but anyway, get that out the side. It was just that I left Brownsville, went to college thinking that I'm going to be the first black horror writer. Got to college, UT Knoxville, got to college and got my ass handed to me when I picked up a Fangoria magazine. They had a Black History special and they showed all these black horror authors. I was like, where have I been? So I was upset. It's kind of like you being told this lie all your life, and then you all of a sudden realize that there's others out there like you. And so it started in college, but it just got to the point where when I got out of college and I was trying to find some way to just make my hobby a career of some sort, that's when I discovered all these different tribes. And so of horror fans that are just very, cool, black, gay, queer, allies,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a wonderful thing. So I try to use Midnight Social Distortion as a platform to um combine all the things I love and share it with other people and educate them if I can in some way.
Right. And now listen, I get that you might think I've been held down in my life a couple times being a straight white man, but you know, that's I do love that because I get to there's certain experiences that I'll have in my life that you won't. And there's certain experience you being a queer black man that I will never face, whether it's a positive or a negative, that I will never go through. The great thing about horror, and it's been this way since horror started, it's inclusive. We want everybody here. If you're a horror fan, we love you. It doesn't matter. And we all support each other. We're all happy for each other. The last thing we give a shit about is your skin color, your race, your creed, your sex. We don't care, because we're here to be horror fans and we love each other. And I mean, look at you go all the way back to Night of the Living Dead 68. You got a black man saving a white woman throughout that whole movie. And then when it comes to female, you have the final girl, these women that are kicking the shit out of men all throughout these movies. So horror has always been ahead of the curve, whether it's with the LGBTQ, with women's rights, with, social activism. Look at Tales from the Hood, all the stories that told back in 93 before social media could tell you these tales. And it's one of these things where horror has a way of being so educational on top of as horrific and scary and traumatizing. It can really educate you if you take a minute to listen to what they're saying. Candyman, for example, back, one of my favorite lines in the original Candyman movie is after Helen gets attacked. And she's like, black people die at Cabrini Green all the time and nothing happens. They don't lift a finger. But a white woman gets beat up in a bathroom and the cops are there within 5 minutes. That message has always been there. It's always been in the forefront of horror because we don't care. We're going to tell you how we feel and we're going to show you the injustices that are happening. And we're going to try to make it better for the next generation. And that's what horror's been trying to do for a long time. And now that is one positive about the YouTubes, the podcasts, the social medias. We can have black queer men. We can have black women. We can have white queer men that are all coming together and sharing their experiences and learning and educating from each other so we can help the next generation to forget about all the bullshit that's been taught to us of hate and difference. And we don't need that anymore. We, especially in the horror world, we're all one. It's one being and it's all us and it's the horror world. So I love that fact about it.
Yeah, and I just wish certain people would like realize that, because it's like lately it's been very uncomfortable with a lot of horror spaces, because a lot of people have come in and shown their true colors, and that's another reason why I'm trying to do do my podcast and do my platform, is because everything you just said is true. We Horror has been ahead of the curve. It's always been very, very political. It's been
Mm.
political and without, but see, the thing what certain people don't realize is that they feel like nowadays, because we are in a state where everything's politicized to some degree, but it's just the fact that a lot of people are fed up, because it is 2021 and we still have a lot of hate and stuff like that. And so when certain people come in and have this good old boy type mentality of, I just wish we could go back to the, you know, like the tits in the ass, but no message behind it. And it's just like, where have you been? Most of the horror that we talked about, the reason why we sit here and celebrate and honor certain movies after all these years is because they had something to say about society, whether or
Right.
not it was at that particular time or even now. It's just because the message stands true. Yes, George R. Romero's zombie Living Dead series, it's very, prolific and very, they gave us like, flesh eating zombies, but underneath all of that, all those, even this, all six movies, I can't really say much about survival, but all six movies have had some type of social commentary under them.
100%.
Yeah, and so push aside the gore and the violence that goes on in these movies and just look at the message. And if you watch these movies ad nauseum and you still come to the conclusion that things today are too political, then you really have not been paying attention to the horror movies that you have been watching all these years. We can have a fun, good movie like Prom Night, Prom Night and Prom Night, Hello Mary Lou Prom Night too. We can have a good movie like that, or a good fun film like just throw some. I'm trying to throw something out there. Recently, Bad Hair. Justin Simeon's Bad Hair. Now it had a message, but it gave us this message by being entertaining. We can
Right.
have our entertaining horror films. Night of the Demons. That's an entertainment horror film, but there's still some type of message underneath, like something like hell, even Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. They tend to show you that the horror is not demon worshiping cults or possessed children and like the exes and stuff like that. The horror is in your community. You know,
Yeah.
Halloween is one of the reasons why people start locking their doors at night. And then something like A Nightmare on Elm Street took it a bit further and was like, the sins of the father tend to come back and haunt the children.
Mhm.
And therefore, you can block your doors. You can sit there and drink it out. You can drink it away, but you have to go to sleep and you have to
Yeah.
face your damn demons. So it's just like you have to understand that horror is more, it's deeper than just a slasher or a zombie kill or something like that. It's always been that way. And I wish that certain aspects of our community will wake up and realize that it's always been political. That goes for just science fiction and fantasy as well. It's like everything's been political. One of the things I hate, I'll just stop. But one of the things I hate is when people always talk about like Star Trek and how it's being so political, and it's just like I'm trying to escape from like real world bull crap, and they get all this social justice wokeness and stuff like that. First of all, if you use woke when you try to describe something, don't even review it. Don't even say it, because it's become a very big trigger word. But if you don't realize that Star Trek is like the most political show on TV, because the Klingons, the Romulans, the Andorians, and all those represent different countries in
Yes.
the world, and so people don't realize that it's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a parable or an analogy or whatever. So So yeah. So yeah. So I'm glad that you see that, it should be an inclusive place, because you would think that people who we love horror, and people in normal society tend to look down at horror. They don't think it has no academic value. It has no purpose. It's just a vile aspect of the world we live in, and anybody who loves it is pretty much considered a weirdo or a dangerous person. And it would seem like you will understand how it is to be ostracized in some aspect in the year 2021. But here we
See,
are.
and it's funny because you were talking about the woke thing, and like I had somebody tell me that, oh, there's two gay characters, dominant gay characters, and Hollow Woke kills, and I was like, you shut the fuck up. You know how stupid you sound right now. Like,
It's
and then I had
just
someone tell me the same thing about Candyman 2020. They're like, I won't watch any woke horror movies. I was like, so you didn't watch the first Candyman? Because by your definition, it's the same fucking thing that you're bitching about. Just because it's newer and they have a message does it. I'm not a big fan of the word woke either. It's not something that I've ever been a fan of, because you're trying to insinuate that because I care about everybody and I think that we should have equal rights, that means that I'm awake, I'm woke. Label me that if you want, but I'm not going to change who I am and the person that I am because of a stupid fucking title. Call me a snowflake, call me woke, call me whatever you want. I prefer to call myself Ken Sledge, and that's the name that I'm going to continue to call myself.
Yeah, it's just the word has been taken and weaponized to scare people into right-wing politics. And it's I don't know. I when it first came out, I had my, I would use it and stuff like that, but it was more along the lines of like, oh, so this person is like, for me, it was like, who's the wokest? This person or this person? But then then you started hearing like more people who don't understand the concept, utilizing it and like weaponizing it. And I was like, okay, that's another one that has to be, it's a trigger word. It's a trigger word for me. So, but not
it's
for
gone the
reasons
way
most
of
people.
all that in a bag of chips. We don't have to say it anymore.
We don't have to say it anymore because it's just, well, certain people don't need to say it when they describing. Somebody was trying to do a review of horror noir, and like you said, like they said with Halloween Kills, like it was. I'm like, okay, if you can't review a movie that has a social message without using that word, then I prefer you not to try to review that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's just like you're saying what you want to say without saying it, but I can still get that. Like I hear the whistle in the context that you're trying to put it in. So yeah, I don't. It's just like if you have to review a movie using that word in a sort of derogatory manner, then I have to like pull like nope.
Yeah, reading that review, if it looks like shit and it smells like shit, I don't have to taste it to know that it's shit.
Exactly. It's
like
I can smell it all over here. But
well, we talked about it a little bit a second ago, Mark, but I really want to take this deep dive into it now. We have already mentioned your first horror movie, and I'm pretty sure you guys all know what it is. So I want to take you back to the past for a minute, Mark. Your first horror movie was
A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is a movie that I could talk about for hours. It's a movie that I've often said it's probably the closest thing to a perfect horror movie that exists. So, do you remember how old you were the first time you had seen it?
3.
What? I love
was
your
3
parents already, man.
Well, they was trying to band train me. Kevin. It was like, dude, it was like, I remember just like it was yesterday, them saying like, okay, because I was the only baby in the house, so Dad worked nights. Do you want me to go into it now, or you want me to
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Dad was at work that night, and it was just me and Mom all day, and so Mom decided to put me to bed in my new bedroom, and I went to bed. They didn't have a night light, so they had the door open a crack. And for some reason under the sun, I just hear her laughing hysterically at the TV. And as a kid, when you gravitate towards the laughter of your parents because it's
Yeah.
so I got out of bed because I want to see what she's laughing at. I go into the living room, not paying attention to what's on the screen, and as soon as I turn the corner, that's when I'm seeing Freddy Krueger coming down the alleyway towards Tina with the long arms and the razor gloves scratched against the the wall. And as soon as she said, "Dear God," and Freddy was like, "This is God," I took out and bolted, screaming. And my mom was like, "Come back, it's fake, it's not real." And I'm like, I mean, it's a guy on TV like chasing this girl with these long arms and stuff. And so she had to sit there and like try to get me to go to sleep. And I didn't sleep in my room that night. So dad came back and like, "Why do you watch that horror movie with him?" Like, she's like, I was by myself and he came in here. I'm like, oh my God. So ever since then, I was scared of Freddy Krueger. I'm talking bad, yo. So I ended up going to like video stores with my cousins, and I would accidentally walk to the horror aisle and see all these video covers of these things, and I would start screaming in the store, and they was like, "Shit, you were supposed to watch him." It was like, and so I would have like this big freak out in the middle of the store, and they'd be like, "Go get him!" And so I'm like, I didn't know. Just crying and stuff. They're like, "Oh my God, like Jesus Christ!" But then they started using that against me. So we would have like get-togethers every weekend, the family and stuff, and they put all us kids in the back. This is when Freddy's Nightmares was airing, and
The TV show.
right, and they were like, "Okay, we'll." At this point in time, I got to the point where I could sit there and be like this in the corner, like watching TV and everything, and monsters would come on. Tales from the Dark Side, you hear that thing, you like, okay, it comes on, you like, Jesus Christ, you in the corner, like, because you want to be one of the boys, and so
Yeah.
I could sit there and do this in the room, and when a scary part come on, but I would sit there and like giggle after the fact, but never Freddy Krueger.
Right.
They premiered Freddy's Nightmares and like, "Hey, Mark, come in here and sit with us." So I was sitting there, and the Freddy Nightmares theme comes on,
Oh yeah.
and then all of a sudden the newspaper burns away, and he jumps out. I'm like, so I ran to the other room, and then I was in the hallway the whole entire night. They're like, "We got him again, we got him again." And it was like, I was like, my parents like, "What's wrong with you now?" They were like, "They got Freddy Krueger in on there." He don't like Freddy Krueger. It was like, but as I got older, I think the movie that did it for me, just brought me into it, was Dream Warriors. So then I went back because you actually see people whipping his ass.
Right.
Kristen jumping in the air and kicking him, and then Kid K swinging at him, and then all this stuff is just like, oh, they're fighting him. He's not as bad as I thought he was. And then I went back and just did a deep dive on all the movies. But the first one was the Nightmare on Elm Street. That was the one. And to this day, I can't watch it. I'm lying. I can sit there and watch it in the middle of the night and go to sleep. I would be dead as honest with you. The only one I'm kind of terrified to watch while I'm falling asleep is Freddy's Revenge,
Yeah.
because of the scene where he first grabs Jesse and he has like the demonic eyes.
Uh-huh.
That's the one that's the scene out of all those damn movies that still gets me, is that one.
Well, that's the darkest. I think that's the darkest Freddy Krueger in the whole franchise is from part 2,
Yes.
Freddy's Revenge. He's dark as fuck in that movie. And I think growing up, I didn't like that movie because it was so
Me too.
dark. Like it's one of those things that like the other movies were not dark like that. They were a lighter movie, but then you get to that one, you got this comic, even in the first one, like, "Hey, Tina, watch this." Because he had that bit of comedy to him. He didn't have that in Freddy's Revenge. He was just a dark, nasty motherfucker. So I was like, "Yeah, this one sucks." Then I got older. I was like, "Man, this movie's so fucking good." Like he's so evil in this movie.
Highly pissed off the whole entire time.
Right. So we know which scene affected you the most, with him walking down the alleyway with the long arms and But what would you say your favorite scene from A Nightmare on Elm Street is?
Oh, further, just a little bit further into that same sequence is and I tell people this all the time. There's not a better death scene than Tina's death scene, in my personal opinion. Because you never, to this day, I don't think. Well, one movie came close this year, and I get to that in a minute though. But um, that death scene is still effective because the way Wes Craven shot that shit
Mhm.
was very innovative,
And it's practical. No
practical,
CGI.
no
And you
CGI.
got Rod, Jesus Garcia, Tina.
Right,
You see him, but you still see her going up this wall. And
right.
fucking brilliant, man. Fucking brilliant.
The moment from when she goes up in the air, that entire moment when she's laying in bed and she's up in the air swing is like turning, that shit, can nobody touch that. I'm
Right.
sorry, Jason. There is not one fucking, you can have your goddamn cryogenic kill and Jason X and your sleeping bag kill and um a new blood, but no, nothing you've done can top him doing that in
Right.
midair, slicing somebody up and then throwing them against the wall, then dragging them up. I mean, come on.
Well, you look at I talk about this a lot. There's really 4 deaths in the original Nightmare on Elm
Right.
Street. You got Tina, you got Rod, you got Johnny Depp, and you got the mom at the end. Those are really the 4 essential deaths. A Nightmare on Elm Street shows quality over quantity because every single one of those deaths is so memorable and so well
Right.
shot and so beautiful looking. I was just about to ask you what your favorite kill from the movie was, but we know that was Tina. So now a
Right.
question I've been asking recently, Mark, is would you like to see this movie remade today? Obviously, with A Nightmare on Elm Street, we have had the remake done. So have you seen the Nightmare remake, and what are your thoughts on the Nightmare remake?
I'll be honest with you, Ken. When they said we're gonna remake a Nightmare on Elm Street, I was pissed. I was in college. This is my senior in college. And I was pissed. I said, how fucking dare they touch a Nightmare on Elm Street? Give me another damn sequel. Freddy versus Jason just ended. We need to see what the hell happened to them. No. Then I found out they were filming near my cousin's. She stays in Chicago and she stays in the suburb of Joliet, and they were filming like 30 minutes away from there. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go up there this summer and try to stay with her and try to get on set and try to be a part. At least I can be a part of something like this, as an extra or something. Then they released the trailer. And Ken, when I tell you, that trailer was 100 times better than the actual finished product was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so livid. I own it on DVD, but I was so livid about the movie that I got the bare bones DVD. Like, I didn't want to see anything else. I was like, okay. And this is when DVDs and Blu-rays were fighting with each other because they took all the special features off the DVDs and started putting them on the Blu-rays and stuff. So I was like, okay, but to answer your question, I did not care for it to an extent. Okay, I tell people all the time I shit on the movie, but I will give it props for trying to. The beginning of it is where I was kind of like a fan of it until it got to Chris's kill. Because when they tried to re-emulate that kill, doing practical, I'm assuming it was kind of WWE-esque. And I was laughing the entire time Katie Cash was getting thrown across. So I'm like, I couldn't stop laughing. And it wasn't like it was because, like, and I remember it took me back to when my mom first saw it. When we saw the original, and I was like, I'm laughing at this because this is fucking stupid. And she probably can see she laughs at anything horror related that is like when people start morphing into stuff or they start changing, she laughs hysterically. But I was laughing, and then after I got through watching the scene, I'm like, I just laughed at one of the most crucial scenes in the entire movie, and that's a bad sign.
Right.
And I couldn't do Bruno Mari as Nancy. I There's two things I liked about it. The one, they gave us the extra kid who was killed on camera. That was cool. The micro sleep thing was cool. And the extension of Chris's character in the first half of the movie, because it really was her story the first half of the movie. And it just transferred over to Nancy. And um I yeah. After that, I was like, what they should have done was, if you're gonna remake it, change it up.
Yep.
And I would have been perfectly fine if they let's had Chris be the main lead throughout the entire movie, and then because she's Bruno Mars over here is Nancy, have her get taken out in some type of way, and then just change it up a little bit. I've probably been okay with it, but as a whole, it was just like, nah, y'all missed the ball with this. And
A lot of what you just said, I agree with, but there is something I want to put out there because I've shit on this remake a lot, man, and I've shit on it for the wrong reasons. I feel like what I don't like about this remake is, like you said, you try to do the same effects you had in the first one that were done amazingly well practically, and you do them with CGI, and it looks like dog shit. Now, what I will say is, oh my gosh, his name is escaping me right now. The guy that played Freddy in this one,
Jackie Earl Haley.
Jackie Earl Haley. He did something that Robert Englund could never do, and that is make you hate Freddy Krueger.
Oh,
because we're not supposed to like this guy. He's a child killer. You know, and that is one thing I didn't like about the remake is they made him a pedophile. And look, at guys, please don't think I'm saying, look, if you want to kill a kid, that's okay, but you better not molest them. No, they're both fucking evil and gross and bad and wrong. But to hear about Freddy Krueger being a pedophile just it bugged me. But we're never supposed to like him. He's a child killer. And Jackie Earl Haley came in and made you hate the guy we're supposed to hate. With Robert Englund, there's so much charisma, you're always kind of rooting for him. You're like, I like this guy. He's cool as fuck. But with Jackie Earl Haley, you're like, fuck this guy, kill him, burn him, cut his head off, piss on him, do what you got to do, get him off my TV. So he did the one thing that Robert Englund couldn't do, and that is make me hate Freddy Krueger for being the evil, disgusting, vile person that he is.
Oh my, when you put it that way, that makes a whole lot of sense because I was like, and I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of didn't like the movie also is because they tried to make it seem like maybe we lied. Maybe we lied on him. I'm like, well, if that's the case, then I can see why he'd be probably pissed off at you. But then at the end of the movie, they're like, no, I'm killing you because you actually tried to run your mouths. It's like, oh, so you gave this whole angle of him, they might have been like, no. I was like, okay, y'all could have left it out, and he could have been just like, you know, kind of like this, what's the line from Freddy's Dead? You promised you never tell, but you did, and now you gotta take your medicine. It's something like that. They could have took that line and just said it, and been kind of like, okay, cool. But it was just like you try to give us a sympathy thing, and it's like I kind of never really had sympathy for Freddy, even though I love the movies and I love the character. It's just like it's like that anti-hero character, like kind of like Darth Vader. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't like him. He's an asshole. You want his ass to be dead, but he's like you say, he's charismatic. But it was just like you tried to make him, like you try to make us sympathize with him, and I think there was a problem with a lot of the remakes for some of these movies, even Taste of Chainsaw Massacre. Don't
give us a red herring about Freddy Krueger. Right. We fucking know what time it is. Right. Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. Like I know what's going on.
Exactly. Like, that's a great point.
Mark, we talked about your first horror movie being A Nightmare on Elm Street, but now I want to kind of twist it on its head a little bit. My little buddy Ghostface here has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Mark? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
I would still have to say A Nightmare on Elm Street, because that's the one that brought me in. That's the one that sucked me in. And it's just the one I always go back to, and I'm a huge, like, I think I own A Nightmare on Elm Street on Blu-ray, DVD, and if I had the VHS tape still to this day, I will own them too. I try to collect a lot of Freddy stuff. Like I went broke buying stuff for Freddy. Because one other story, I was in college. Me and you both know the college experience. Broke college student. Y'all, all I had to my name was literally probably $35. I was sitting in my apartment trying to figure out what the fuck I'm going to eat. Knoxville announces, oh, we have a horror convention coming in. We have a fantastic convention coming in tomorrow, and it's going to have Freddy Krueger and Wonder Woman and Adam West. And I'm like, Robert Englund's going to be, he's in Knoxville right now? It costs $20 to get in. I was there with them.
He's like, so I microwaved part of my couch that night.
I sat there and went and bought one of those the McDonald's what they call it, McValue menu. That's my friend for
Yep.
that weekend. Cause I went got like a $3 meal and went straight to fucking the what you call that place, the convention center,
Yeah.
and got in line to meet Robert England. So I was
That's
just
how was he? Was he a nice guy? He's on my bucket list.
yes, he was very nice. Now, granted, I'm a broke college student and I had my DVD set with me, and I was like, I wanted him to sign it, but I didn't have the money for him to sign it. But he did give me a signed card. And I tried
That's
not to
cool.
be, yeah, that person who was like, do the Freddy laugh, because there was now keep in mind Adam West was sitting right beside him. And then over here, I think was if I am not mistaken, Lou Ferrigno or what's her name? My mind is blank. Who plays Wonder Woman back in the day? Linda Carter was right
Yeah.
there. So in the line of all these Fred heads, people dressed up as Freddy and they got the shirts on and stuff like that, is this soccer mom. I'm talking about literally, she had the scarf around her. Um, and this little girl who looked like she was probably been one of his victims or something like that. And she was probably like 10, maybe 9 or 10 years old. And she was waiting in line to meet Robert England too. And the mother was like, honey, remember the guy you saw on TV last night? The guy with the burnt face? This is him. See, he's not real. And then Robert England was like, yeah, my name is, I play Freddy. She was like, so he was like, do you want me to do my evil laugh? And everybody behind was like, oh God, yes, please do it, do it. So he went into Freddy voice and the little girl started laughing. And it kind of like, because she was sitting there doing this right here the whole entire time, and her mom was saying, it's okay, he's not real, and he's just playing a character. And for him to do something like that,
Yeah.
and just be cordial and not try to be like, oh, you basically, I got more people back here who's waiting to pay money to
Right.
take pictures with me and stuff like that. No, he took time out to make sure to show her that he wasn't real, and that Freddy wasn't real, but I'm a real person, therefore I can make you laugh just by doing this. So, and then I took it for steps. I got up there and he shook my hand and everything, and I was like, you the one who brought me into the horror thing. He's like, well, I appreciate that. I'm talking to him and stuff, and I said, I just want to know what you're working on right now. Because I know he wasn't doing anything Freddy related, because this was post Freddy versus Jason. So what are you working on right now? That's what he told me. He kind of lit up, because he probably found, for me, it felt like he was tired of talking about Freddy all day long.
Sure.
And so he was like, oh, I have, this project working on with this director named Adam Green. And that's when he was talking about Hatchet.
Gotcha.
And and he was talking about, I think the thing he was working on with Kane Hodder, the fear clinic thing.
Okay.
So he was talking about all of that, and he was like, yeah, so all you should see all those really soon. And I can't wait to talk about them more, but I can't talk about them too much. But those are what I'm really working on right now. And I'm so happy about those and very excited. And so I was like, say less. I just spoke to the man who fucking ruined my childhood to a degree, but the one who brought me into horror. And so I was like, so even though I was a broke ass college student that day, I walked out of there feeling like the richest man in the world.
Right.
So
what a cool story, man.
Right. I that's true. What I'm saying?
Right.
So, but if you ever meet him, he's a damn good person to like sit and chat it up with.
Bucket list for sure, man.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I've had an amazing time with you, and we always end these podcasts with the same question. I want to go back to Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think I know the answer, but I gotta ask you, man. We're gonna be ranking this movie on a skull count. 0 skulls being the worst and 5 being the best. Now, we're not being critics. We're not judging it on score, production, acting, nothing like that. What we're doing is strictly judging this movie on how much it affected you on first watch. So 0 being the worst and 5 being the best. What would your ranking of Nightmare on Elm Street be?
It did its job. It did what it had to do. It scared the shit out of me. It haunted me for life. And it made me a horror fan. And without a
thank God for that child killer.
Right. What I'm saying? Like, out of all the people you want to sit here and like not Emily, but just you want to sit here and just like champion, it's Freddy Krueger who kills kids. I'm like, people don't understand, kids. Like, I was one of those kids, everybody's in class painting like, this is my family, this is my doggy and my teacher came to my desk and I'm sitting here drawing 1428 Elm Street and the Freddy Krueger sitting in front of it. And then she was like, called my parents, like, yeah, Mark, he might be a little disturbed. I'm like,
You're like,
I'm a
I thought I
nerd.
told you not to tell.
There you go. I told you that.
But it's amazing what horror means to all of us, man. And the fact that you got started with such an iconic horror movie in my top 3 practical effect movies of all time. I do want to remind everybody, make sure you're clicking these links down here in the description. Make sure you're giving Mark a follow. Make sure you check the podcast out. Mark, don't go anywhere, man. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, thanks for coming along for the ride. Keep talking horror. Stay what you are. And we'll see you guys soon.